This is Kasie Hunt on Capitol Hill. So, Kasie, this thing is changing by the minute. I've been watching your coverage here. Bring us up to speed with this new info on numbers like the corporate tax rate and then the numbers Republicans need to pass this. What's up?
Hallie, this is an incredibly thorny math problem that they are still trying to solve, even as they are heading into the big unveiling for what promises to be a change that in law, in tax law, that touches every single American. And we are still learning exactly what those details are going to be, and we have some critical questions still. So behind closed doors, they're here in the ceremonial room in the Longworth House office building. It's a little bit of a different location than where we normally are for these kinds of meetings because of today's occasion. And they are walking through fact sheets about the individual and corporate rates that are set to be included in this bill. And forgive me if I keep looking over my shoulder to see if there's anybody we want to talk to a little bit more about this. Essentially, they have given out fact sheets that basically line up with what we know, that there will be an increase in the standard deduction for individuals, for example, that there will be some kind of compromise on state and local tax deductions. We are told right now, and on the sheet, it says that it will be limited to property taxes and not include state and local income taxes. But at the same time, we're also hearing from people that this is potentially still in flux. So why are all of these details important? Because the speaker has to figure out how to make sure that that coalition of members from New York, New Jersey, other high tax areas aren't pushed so far that they decide they can't vote for this. They're trying to figure out how to pull things away from the corporate side because the Freedom Caucus has essentially drawn a line in the sand and said, no, you can't raise the corporate tax rate above 20% in this bill. That's the other major side of this that we haven't addressed yet. And so that push and pull has led to, they've been frankly up all night. These details have been changing all night to try to figure out how to make the math work. So they have to keep the total cost below $1.5 trillion, according to budget rules, and they need 218 votes. So the materials that we are getting that are coming out of this room still leave major questions. For example, they say the corporate tax rate will be 20%, but there's no notation about whether that might expire. That's a critical question. There's some questions around the home mortgage deduction. One interesting thing I think we learned is that right now, under this proposal, any home that costs more than $500,000, according to this fact sheet, would not get to use the home mortgage tax deduction. So I have some questions about that. Is it, do you still get to take a deduction on the first $500,000 worth of your house, or would it, be excluded entirely? I mean, these are very important questions, especially for people in those high tax states. I mean, there are Republicans from California where, there are families who, the cost of living is just extremely different. $500,000 buys something much different in San Francisco or Los Angeles or Washington or New York than it does in Austin, Texas or Milwaukee. So these are going to increasingly seem like very arcane details that are, going to be hard to explain. But the important part here is that any single one of these things has the potential to blow up the process. Now, with that said, I do think there's a difference here than there was on health care, which is to say the political imperative to get this done is so high. Everyone, Republicans of all stripes, think that this is a do-or-die situation. If they don't do it, they could risk their majority coming up in just about a year. If you can believe that, we're just about a year out from the midterm elections. I feel like we just sort of did this. I don't know about you, but that's weighing very heavily on them, and I think ultimately puts the foot on the scale that to this being more likely to pass than not. But as we've been saying, potentially rocky path there.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.